Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today, I don't really know how to intro this one, so I think I'm just gonna go straight into explaining. So I follow Goodreads on Twitter/X, whatever it's called. And on that account, they post, every once in a while, they post a question prompt for people to answer in their comments. And quite a few of them are pretty interesting. I tend to go through their comments. I like to see what people answer. And so I thought for this video, what I would do was I would go through their account, pick out a bunch of questions, and answer them. I wrote down a bunch of questions, and I put them in this little box. And I'm going to pick out a few at random. I don't think we're going to go through all of these. We're going to see how many we get through. But if we went through all of these, the video would be super long. So we're not going to do that. But we're going to go through some. And if you guys want to answer some of these questions yourselves, then you can do that in the comment section, of course. You can go over to Twitter and answer it on their Goodreads page. But yeah, so I figure we just go straight into it. The first question is, do you write notes in your books when you read? If you do, what was the last thing you wrote? I don't usually write in my books on the first read through. I usually write in books that I really, really love when I'm rereading them. So I know a lot of people like to annotate in their books. That's awesome. I think that's really cool. And it makes the reading experience, I think it takes the reading experience to a whole nother level. But I can never do that on the first read, because if I don't like the book, I don't keep it. And I don't want to donate or try to sell a book that I've written in. And then I don't even really write all that much. I mostly highlight or underline. And the last thing I wrote in a book, I don't have the book. I gave it away with my annotations on purpose. It was in the Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I annotated that book on a reread and gifted it away. So I don't have the book with me, so I don't know what the last thing I wrote in a book was. The only other book that I've actually annotated anything in, I think, is The Count of Monte Cristo, but I don't think I wrote anything in it. Let me check. So I've shown you this book before, and you see all of the tabs that I've put in, and the tabs are color-coded, so that really says all there is to say about it. I didn't really feel the need to write anything in it, I think. I can't see anything. I underlined a bunch of things, highlighted some things, like on this page you can see that I've highlighted, and I don't know if you can tell, but I've underlined some stuff as well, but I didn't write anything in it. I might on a reread though, but no. I don't really have a problem with it though. If it's a book I really like, then I'm keeping it, so it doesn't really matter. And usually then what I do is I get a second copy of the book to specifically have one that I annotate, underline, and highlight in, and one that I use just like for a clean read. So that's usually what I do. That was the intention with getting a second Malibu Rising book. So I have two now, and one is for a clean reread and one is for a reread where I can annotate and underline and highlight. So I guess the answer to that question is no, I don't really write in my books. I have no problem with doing so, but it is usually on a reread. You know, when you reread something, you usually see things you didn't see before. So I'm not saying that, like, there's nothing to write, but until very recently, I was very, very against writing in books, but I've given it up. I enjoy it. I will probably be annotating in books from now on when I reread them. So, second question. The second question is, a very appropriate one. I was hoping this one would pop up in this video. What book puts you in a cozy fall mood? Fall is, I guess, slowly coming to an end, but we're still here. Let me think. What book puts me in a fall mood? Ooh. Okay, this channel is really new, so I haven't talked about a lot of books a lot already, but I'm going to try and stick to a book that I haven't shown you guys on the channel yet. I mean, you've seen all my books, but I've already done a favorites video and a haul and all these things, so I'm going to try and steer away from those and pick out some others. I have some really good ones. Hang on. So, looking on my shelves, the first ones that jump out at me right away are my John le Carré books. The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, and Call for the Dead. These are Cold War spy novels. They're pretty nitty-gritty. They're a little dark. They're not very long books. So you get pretty much straight to the point and you stick to the point throughout. There's not a lot of fluff around. They don't shy away. They don't sugarcoat things. It's not the romanticized version of a spy. It really isn't. I think that's part of what makes me think of them as such fall books. He's written a lot more. And I don't really know if there's a reading order. I don't think so. Not for a lot of them. I think there are a couple series. So yeah, highly recommend looking up John le Carré if you don't know anything about him or his books. If you do know his books and you haven't read them already, give some of them a try, especially if you're into spy novels or Cold War novels. So yeah, these I think would be a pretty neat fall read if this is your kind of thing. I've read The Night Manager too. I don't have a physical copy anymore because my edition was really shabby and I wanted a new one. So I'm going to replace that one. That one will be on my shelf at some point. I would also recommend any Agatha Christie novel. Mysteries are great for fall and winter. I think a lot of us agree on that. They're really cozy. They're cozy mysteries, right? And they're really clever, and I highly, highly recommend them. She's written a lot, so there's a lot to choose from. She has short stories as well as full-length novels, though none of her books are very, very long, so they're not something that would take up a lot of your time, and I think they would also be pretty good at getting you out of a slump if you're struggling with one during this time of the year. I think they could be really, really good books to try out. Next question. I feel like I've already talked for ages and we're only on question 3, so we're gonna take a few more. What book have you been wanting to read for ages but kept putting off? How long have you got? Where to begin? All of my unread books that I own, I mean, I've gotten them for a reason, and there are quite a few. Okay, there are a couple that I think when I see them on my shelf are definitely... I'll show you. Wait, I'll show you. So, I have 2 books here in particular that I think fit this bill really well, and they have some things in common, and I think you'll understand when I show you. Big fantasy books. Big fantasy books. Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss is the second book in a series that he's still working on, and the third book isn't out as far as I know. I read the first one. It was like 800 pages or something. This one is like 1,000. Yeah, it's 1,000 pages long, so that's why I've put this off. But I loved the first one. They're adult fantasy books. The first one was really, really good, and I've been so looking forward to finishing the story, to finishing the series, but it's so big. And it took me forever to get through the first one. And so I already know that it's going to take me even longer to get through this one. And the writing is tiny. It's intimidating. It's really, really intimidating. And on top of that, I haven't really been in a fantasy kick for a while. So it's just been sitting on my shelf for years at this point. And I really want to get to it. At this point, I feel like I have to reread the first one first, which just makes this whole thing even more scary. One day, I will get to this. One day. And then the second one is The Priory of the Orange Tree, which when it came out was everywhere and everyone was raving about it, and it got me really excited. I received it as a present last year, and because I haven't been in a fantasy kick, I haven't picked it up. It's also really big. It's a standalone though, so it's not as scary as The Wise Man's Fear is. It's 800 pages long. It's not as intimidating as The Wise Man's Fear, but it's still a deep dive for someone who's not really in a fantasy mood. So I've just been kind of steering clear until I fall in the mood again. I'm hoping that that mood will pop up soon, but until then, it's just gonna sit on my shelf. I really want to read all of these books, but being a mood reader is so hard. It's so hard. Moving on. The next question is, how do you decide what you're going to read next? My mood decides what I'm going to read next, and it's not always cooperative. I was just saying how being a mood reader is really hard. Sometimes all you want to do is read, but you pick up a book and you try to get through it and you cannot. You cannot get further than a couple pages and you have to put it down. And forcing your way through a book is the worst thing you can do, because a book that you might otherwise really like is just not going to hit, and you're going to end up not liking it. It's going to put you in a slump, and so you're just stuck waiting for the right mood to read any book at all. And then when the mood hits, you gotta hope that you'll have the book that fits it. That's why I some months read almost nothing, if anything at all, and other months I read like 12 books, because sometimes you're just really not in the mood to read anything at all, or you're in the mood to read something but you don't have anything that would fit that mood. And other times you're just picking things off the shelf and devouring them. How do I pick what to read next? I wait for the mood, listen to it, and hope that I have something on my shelf that suits it. And it's not always necessarily that difficult. Sometimes I just feel like I want to read something and I pick something off my shelf and I make my way through it, and it doesn't really matter what it is. All that matters is that I'm reading. So like, it's not strictly, okay, right now I'm specifically in the mood for this very specific thing. Sometimes it's just, I really want to read something and I don't want to make it a huge thing, but I feel like reading something that's a little lighter or not so long, and that's what I'm in the mood for. It's really, really hard. You just gotta listen to the reading gut, really. That's my answer to that question. It's really hard, man. I wonder what it's like to not be a mood reader. Are any of you not mood readers, and can you explain what that's like? Because what a life. The next question is, who are some of your favorite authors? I don't think I've read enough to have favorite authors. I know I want to read everything that Alexandre Dumas has ever written. I love Agatha Christie. That much I've said already. Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love her writing so much and I love her stories. So I'm trying to get through all of them. I guess maybe Tolkien too. It's kind of the same situation as Alexandre Dumas, where I want to read everything he's written because I just loved the story that I've gotten so far. And I love the writing and the way that they describe the world and the way that they design their characters. So I guess in that sense, they could be considered favorites. Only Tolkien and Dumas has gotten me so intrigued that it's like something I think about on a regular basis. It's not a favorite author in the sense of like, I love everything they've ever written. It's more of I'm really intrigued by this author and I want to know more. And they're highest on my list. And then, based on authors that I've already read from, I guess, Agatha Christie and Taylor Jenkins Reid. So, I guess that's the only way I can answer this question. Shall we do one more? We'll do one more. What's a book you wish you could read again for the first time? I know people probably expect me to say The Count of Monte Cristo. I love the book, obviously. It's my favorite book of all time. But I actually think I'll be able to appreciate it even more now that I already know the story. And I'm really excited to go into it again, already knowing the story and the writing and knowing what to expect. So I'm not gonna count The Count of Monte Cristo because I don't want to read it again for the first time. I want to read it again for the second time and the third time and the fourth time. The book I want to read again for the first time, I know which one. This one, 13 by Steve Kavanaugh. It's just because I remember, like, I could not put it down. I was so mind blown and I made my mom read it. It was just so well written. So well written. And I struggle so much with thrillers because I think writing suspense is really difficult. It must be really hard. And I rarely find books that do it well enough for me. This one did. And I am so glad that it's been a while since I read it because I've forgotten a bunch and now I can almost go into it again for the first time. This one. This is the book for this question. 13 by Steve Kavanaugh. I mean it. I'm so serious. If you like thrillers, if you like mysteries, if you like that kind of thing, try this book because I think you would really enjoy it. It's definitely not worse than anything that's out there. I think it's a lot better than anything I've already read in the genres. So I highly recommend it. I really, really highly recommend it. Give it a try. Seriously. Okay, I think we're gonna draw the line there. I feel like this has already gotten quite long. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. There are plenty more questions that we can go through. I can make up more of my own too. And please, if you have answers to these questions that you want to share, do so in the comments. I'm really interested in hearing what other people would say to these questions. That's why I go through the comment section on Goodreads tweets when they tweet these questions. I love getting recommendations from there too. People like to supplement their answers with synopses or reasons why, and I find a lot of recommendations there. books to add to my TBR list. So if you do have answers to these questions, feel free to post them in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you guys there. That's all from me today. This little bookish Q&A brought to you by Goodreads Twitter X account. I hope you have a really nice day. I hope the book that you're reading is a really, really good one. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!